Good morning, everybody. I toast to you and all you do. I hope you're having a fantastic morning. I feel like I have coffee all over my face now. And a first full day of fall. So as we just had the dark moon and it's getting closer to the veils are lifting. Now that we have reached into this, we've hit the equinox, the veil is lifting, it's the dark moon. My spirit guides are loud, like megaphones screaming at me, like literally. I feel like there's someone standing right here looking over my shoulder, like, this is what you need to talk about. So one of those weird things that other people don't experience. Anyways, so there are a couple things that I have to talk about in this video. First and foremost, because this spirit guide is all about this, we have to talk about this, okay? I watched this video on TikTok, and apparently my spirit guide watched it with me and is very upset about it. I don't even have TikTok. It was an advertisement. Come see what TikTok is. And some lady was like, I started my own TikTok. I'm doing this. But anyway, so it was What Witches Really Do. And she was just sitting there reading a book. And I think in these modern times, because it is challenging to find someone who you can work with to be your spirit guide and to, like a real person, that was a fly, by the way. People watching this who are not pagan or who are not aware of their spirit guides or don't have them yelling at you, I'm sorry. I know I seem a little crazy at this very moment. It's just when you begin to work with the energies and you make yourself present to them, that's just how it happens. You can also hear the daycare in the background because the first time I tried to make this video and they weren't outside, it didn't work out. Anyway, so in these modern times, we do get stuck in these trends where we end up reading a lot. And we're reading books, and we're reading books. You always see people are like, what's a great book for me to learn this? And I often feel like people just get caught up in that reading. And that's easy. It's easy to read another book. It's easy to absorb that knowledge and to have that information and then to be able to regurgitate it to the world. But I think, as most people know, reading is not experiencing, and reading is only part of learning. I like to use the example of knot tying because, when I was a Girl Scout and my brother was a Boy Scout and my mom was the Boy Scout coach or whatever, we learned about knot tying. And in the book, it's so simple. You have the rope, you tie the knot. When you go to actually start tying the knot and pulling the string right or the rope right and getting real good knots that are like your infinity knot or your whatever knot or whatever, they have a lot of knots. Even in magical practice, you have a lot of knots that you learn to tie for different purposes. Little girls learning that 4-square knot to make your best friend bracelets. Okay, so there's all these knots. Now, on paper, they are so easy. You're like, this is easy. I'm going to tie this super elaborate knot and it's going to be beautiful. Now, when you get your rope out and you sit down to actually tie it, even if you have the instructions right in front of you, it is not as easy as it is on paper. And this is something simple. You're like, I can tie a knot. Knots are hard to tie, especially if you want a knot that's like not going to fall apart when you pull on it. You be able to hang something. Think about macrame, all of these different things. You're like, oh, they're just tying knots. It's not like that. This is like a thing. So, when it comes to doing magic, cooking is another thing. People are like, oh, you just read the cookbook and it tells you how to do it. Well, many people tell you that they've read the recipe and they followed it step by step and it did not work out. I have followed recipes to the T, and I have like professional college training on how to cook from Michelin rated chefs. And still, I'll read a recipe and it'll fail. It won't work out. And it's not the recipe's fault. It's my fault. This is operator error. So it's not just reading. So when my spirit guide and I saw the video and the lady was just reading, I think that it really like triggered an issue. And I'm not going to lie, even in my own practice, you get into these cycles. You know, when I was young and I first started, you're young. I was a teenager. I was like, I'm going to do magic. That's all I want to do. I don't care about anything else. I watched the witch movie, Charmed. No. What the hell is that movie called? Anyways, you all know what I'm talking about. We all watched it. If you are from the 80s, you watched this movie and you were like, I'm going to be a witch. And summon freaking whales out of the ocean. Okay? Maybe you didn't want to be them. Whatever. Don't judge. So anyways, and I just wanted to practice, so that's what I did. I started practicing. I did a prosperity spell, which, you know, it still works to this day. I had such pure intent in such a good place that it still works to this day. And I wasn't trying to be selfish or overbearing or anything, but it still works. And 1 second, I can't. Homeschooling. Anyways, so gotta multitask any chance you get. So when I was young, all I wanted to do was practice, and that's what I did. I practiced. I did magic. You know, I did whatever I could do. Divination. I prayed a lot. I worked with Diana and the moon. I did, you know, all these different things that I could really do to practice. And then I got a little bit older and I started a coven. And I mean, like a real coven, not the one I started when I was 13, but like grown-ups. And the holidays became a really big part of our practice. And we had the most beautiful Beltane walking down the street, shaking trees and ringing bells, and people being like, look, the pagans! And there were a lot of us. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I'll never forget that. We were like literally frolicking and drumming and ringing bells, walking down 14th, downtown in Denver. Walking up Capitol Hill, that's where I lived at the time, and it was beautiful. We walked from there down to Cheeseman Park, and we hung out in the park and shook the blossoms off the crabapple trees and just had this beautiful day. And this, you know, this was a beautiful time for us. And we had a great coven, and it was beautiful, and we hung out, and we did magic, and we practiced. So, you know, then the holidays just kind of became more mundane. You know, just like Christmas with your family, when we go, you know, Thanksgiving, any of those things. It just kind of became more mundane. The community changed, people moved, and it just kind of changed. You know, I got married, I got divorced, I got married, had babies, moved into the city, like just slow, subtle changes that kind of changed everything, but made it so that practicing became a side thing. And I barely even had time to read. I got 3 kids, I was going to school, we're buying a house, we're doing all this stuff, we're like trying to be productive society people. And at the same time, I was trying to build a business, a nonprofit organization out of our coven, to help the community, to find these things that I had found as a young person that I wanted to share, but it was funny, and trying to share that with other people, we began to lose that in our community. And you know, we got to a place where we really weren't practicing anymore. We were so caught up in life and kids and marriage and work and everything. And you just realize, you're like, well, I'm not really practicing. And then you do become one of those people, I'm going to start reading again because I can read. I can take 5 minutes a day and read an article. I can do this or that. But that's not practicing. And for my faith, it worked well because it gave me the time to research and write and follow my faith. And study the moon and the sun and the planets and the stars and astrology and astronomy, because they are 2 different things. And when I was young, I did not realize how vastly different they were. And now, after studying them for several years, you know, it makes a lot more sense in my brain why they're 2 different things. But So I was able to study a lot. But now I really did get to a place where I was like, oh, okay, I have done so much studying and there's all this stuff in my brain, but like I really need to put it to use. I need to get out and do stuff. I told my sister recently, I said, I need to get out. I need to like dig me a hut that I can crawl into and, rub dirt on my body and do earth magic. Find a sweat lodge that would have me. Find something to connect with my ancestors and to connect with my past lives and to connect with, that was a big transition for me. And I realized I was doing so much studying. So then I started doing some meditating. And the thing that came to me in my meditations was my past life regressions, which are very overwhelming. And it's not something that I would say take on lightly. And that I was like, I got to practice more. Like, in order to be able to do this past life regression, I need to be practicing more. I need to be more in tune with that. And so I started doing more practicing, and now I'm trying to incorporate more and more and more. And the whole upheaval with the coven and the business and losing a friend and a coven wife and having to go through that divorce and all of that stuff is really... But I'm like, you know what I have to hold on through all of this is my practice, not my study, not my whatever, not any of those other things, but my practice. I have to go back to practicing because that is what a witch is. A witch is not... So I guess let's bring this circle back around to the beginning when my spirit guide was yelling at me. Studying is not practicing. And witchcraft is a practice. Witchcraft is not a faith, so you do not have to be pagan or Wiccan or whatever. I know Christian witches. I've met some great Christian healers, angel healers. Very much believe in Jesus. Very, 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 very much. But also very much doing magic with aromatherapy and stones and crystals and herbs and working that energy, but working with Jesus. Okay? Santeria, very much a combination of Christian Catholicism and native practices. And not just from Africa, but from other places. And, as they moved the Africans around in slavery, they picked up different, as they picked up slaves from other places, the slaves kind of came together and were like, hey, this is what we have. Let's bring our things together and then put a Catholic stamp on it so that we don't get beat for practicing what we believe in. And now it's created this new practice. And it's not pagan. I mean, I guess it has pagan roots and it has Christian root, Catholic roots, whatever, and it's a combination. But they are not... you ask some Santeria people, and they are devout Catholics. They go to church every Sunday. They kneel, they pray, they give sacrifice, they eat the bread, they drink the wine. They are full Catholics. And they would be mad if you tried to call them a pagan or their practice part of paganism, because that's where they are in there. And that's for them. That's beautiful. I love that. I love Santeria. I love Mexican magic, like from Mexico. Oh, it's amazing. I told my husband, I would go to Mexico and I would have them spit vodka all over me while I laid in the middle of the flammable circle of candles, and I would, yes, okay. Because it's practice. It's practice. It's get out and do something. It's not just read a book. So, it's so funny. As I talk, my spirit guide is calming. It's soothing, and their energy is much calmer, which helps me be much calmer. So, yeah, it's great to read a book, but you have to get out and do something. You have to actually practice. You can't say, I'm a witch, and only read books. If you just read books about being a witch, then you are a well-educated person on witchcraft. Depending on what books you read. If you've read every single one of Scott Cunningham's books, but you've never done any of the spells or actual practices or blessings or initiations or anything out of any of the books, then you are just a very devoted Scott Cunningham reader. And that's great. I'm more power to you. I love him. He, his spirit is amazing, and I imagine he looks down upon the world and is like, I love seeing people all over the world read my work. I also imagine he's like, dang, I should have written it like this, because wouldn't that be the truth? Like, you feel like after you die, you're like, oh, I got the inspiration. I know what I meant all those years. I know what I was missing, and now I wish I would have put it in that book. It's one of those things. So you have to actually get out and do something. Plant your garden. Like, you can't hashtag hedge witch on everything if you don't have a garden, or never had a garden, or don't know how. Like, go out and experience the herb. Plant the herb in your kitchen. Grow it in your countertop. I find that some herbs grow better inside. I've got borage. I was trying to grow outside, dying. So sad. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Brought it inside. It's just like some more controlled environment. And it's thriving. It's got beautiful flowers. It's just one of those things. You have to experience it. You have to be with it. You see my artichoke right here? Artichoke. Let's see if I can get that plant right there. That's artichoke. It's not making any artichokes, but it's really pretty. It's like a big, ornate cactus type thing. Very frustrating, the lack of artichoke. But you gotta get out and grow it. You gotta experience it. You gotta know. If I had never grown it, I would never have known. I do a lot of overplanting in my gardens. And some plants do not like overplanting. Onions, they don't like overplanting. Give your onions their space. The potatoes seem to be doing fine. It just kind of depends on the tomatoes thrive on being overplanted. Like, let's see. You see the tomatoes? That giant right there in the middle? That is like, I want to say 10 tomato plants. And they are planted on either side on top of each other, and they thrive. The bushes are taller than me. I know you can't really tell from here, but they are taller than me. They're pulling my tomato cages over. I was joking. I told my sister, I'm like, we didn't do a very good job setting our tomato cages. And she's like, no, Tara, you didn't buy big enough tomato cages. So it's just one of those things. It's experience. And I read lots of gardening books. I watched all the gardening TV shows. My husband's a farmer, like literally a farmer. Grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere. And still, I have to get out and put my hands in the dirt. I have to experience it. I have to learn it. And then, I'm working it. And it's the same thing with your magic. If you just read about making a corn dolly, and you watch the video about making a corn dolly, and you watched 100 other videos about corn dollies, and you're like, okay, now I know what a corn dolly is, I know how to make it, I know what it's for, that's awesome. But you didn't do it, you're not practicing, you're just learning. So, I very, very, very much challenge you, just as I do in many of the videos, to get up and experience something. Today is the first full day of fall. Go out and look for it. Go out and look at the trees turning colors. Smell the air and how it smells differently. Feel the earth, under your feet, and the cool air that was there this morning. It's just a subtle shift, and you feel that, and that's connecting with those natural energies, and that's practicing being a witch, because a witch, no matter what your faith is, connects with the earth's energy like that. The divine energy in that way. Whoever is your divine, you're still connecting with them. And that's what's important. It's the action. It's the experience. And I love to tell new practitioners. So I'm telling you, if you're new, and this is, you're new to paganism, and you're new to being a witch, here comes the crop duster. It's that time in the morning. You're in my city. I don't know if you can see him in the video. Anyways, I'm sure you can hear him. It's so loud. So my advice is, don't worry about going out and buying another book. Your best teacher is going to be the earth outside. I look over here because there's like weedy earth. It's like the part of my yard that's unfinished. But go out and experience that. Be with that. Sit on a rock I waited my whole life to have somebody tell me to go sit on an anthill. I don't know why I'm obsessed with that thought. I mean, I read it in a book. And I was like, oh, I can't wait for one of my teachers, my coach, my spiritual guide, my person, to tell me to go sit on an anthill. And that never happened. But I did have my spirit guides tell me to go out and hand dig my garden. Which was really rewarding for me, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, all of these different things. It's very, very important for me. With like an old shovel that seriously is like only comes up to like just above my hip. And this is what I do all my shovels. My garden work, pretty much that is my one garden tool. I also use a spade, which if you've never used a spade before, they're amazing and they're triangle shaped and they're really good for getting the little weeds at the beginning of spring because they just take the top layer of dirt off. Anyways, but those are my two tools. And that is one of my prime ways of connecting with my ancestors and the earth simultaneously. And through the meditation that I do while I'm digging, because it's very time consuming, springtime, I'll be spending 3 to 4 hours a day in my garden, digging, weeding, pulling, planting, preparing the dirt, all of the many things that need to get done because this is an important part of me bonding with the earth and all of that stuff. But it's the experience. And so I didn't get my spirit guides to tell me to sit on an anthill. They've told me to sit on a rock next to a river. They've told me to dig my garden by hand. They've told me to sit with a tree. And just little things like that. But when you get that inkling, when that little voice whispers to you, hey, sit under this tree for a minute and just take a minute, do it. Take those opportunities to have those experiences. I'm telling you right now, as today is the first day of fall, I challenge you to go out and look at the trees. Even if it's just walking around in your neighborhood, go out and look at the trees. See the energy changing. Smell the air. Step on the leaves. I know further south you're probably not seeing as many signs, but there are signs. And if you're familiar with your area, you'll see them and you'll know what they are. So go out and see them. Maybe there's a specific flower that doesn't bloom until now, or maybe a certain grass grows to seed or whatever it may be, but go out and find something in your area that is a pure symbol of this season change and experience it, smell it, be with it, feel that energy. See the squirrels and the birds outside right now, like frantic, like I need to do this, I need to do this. Like I was saying the other day, the birds are migrating again. So for those of us who had birds in the springtime, they're coming back now south. So I got the greckles here for a minute. I don't normally see the robins in the fall. The golden finches are back. It's just fun. So start to see those things. Look for those things. See those symbols in reverse from what we saw in springtime. So I challenge you to go out and do that, to experience that, and to be one with the earth, and to have some experience. Do a little magic. Light some incense. Just even if it's just that, light some incense to be like, it is now fall. And feel the change. So I challenge you to do that. Go out. Have fun, love the earth, love yourself, and experience your practice. Actually practice your practice. Pick one thing and do it. Okay? Love. Cherish. Blessings to you.